Hi everyone, welcome to these lectures. And this lecture we're going to talk about sports sponsorships. When we talk about sports marketing, we talk about this semester, we divide into three parts. Right? First part, we talk about some foundations of sports marketing. And the second part, we focus on traditional marketing strategy, which is 4P, product, price, promotion, and place. And the last part of the sport marketing course, we're going to focus on something made sport really unique in the marketing. So that is sports sponsorship. So if starting from this week, we're going to talk about sports sponsorship. We're going to talk about athlete endorsements and naming right issues. We're also going to talk about ambition marketing and how digital media has been utilized in the sports marketing. So first of all, we're going to talk about sports marketing. The agenda for today is we're going to talk about exchange theories and sports sponsorship. We help you to review of the evolution of the sports sponsorships, and we're also going to talk about some key sponsorship concepts. We'll talk about how we are able to secure sports sponsorships, what's the process like, and the last part we're going to talk about how we're able to activate sports sponsorships. So to begin with, so let's introduce the basic definition. What is sponsorships? So based on the definition, sponsorship is a cash or in-kind fee we pay to a property in return for access to exploitable commercial potential that are associated with that properties. So for the sponsorship, they mainly involve two activities. The first one is exchanges between a sponsor and sports property. So both parties, they are looking for the benefit from these partnerships. So that is one activities that we indicated in sports sponsorship. The second thing is for other sponsors. If you really want to maximize the values of the sponsorship, you're not just pay to the sponsors, not just pay to the properties, right? But you also need to try to market this language and association. So for this part, we call them sponsorship activation. So there are two main activities that involve in sports sponsorship. It's not just like I have money, I put this money into this event, to the teams, to the leagues, right? It's also we would like to use other activities to promote the relationship we have with this sports property and letting more people to know about it, which will help us reach our goal. Either we would like to increase the brand awareness or we would like to increase our sales numbers. The idea of sports sponsorship is based on a theory called exchanging theories. So the exchanging theories refers to the idea of the successful exchanges between two or more parties, independent on both parties are feeling what they receive for the service and goods is equal to what they're offering. So basically, we talk about a successful exchanges between two parties. It's basically talking about what we have received. We believe the value is completely identical for what we pay for. Right? Speaking of the exchange, if you look at the human beings' history, so human beings' early economic activities, they were dominated by product exchanges. So in ancient times in the past, so the currency was not introduced. So people use exchange products based on the value. So for instance, so this gentleman give this person's a hen and this person give this gentleman a fish. So when they made this exchange, they believe the product they exchanged were completely identical in value, right? So that's why they would like to make these exchanges, they agree with these exchanges. Later, when we invent the currencies into the market, so we use the currency to match the values of the products. Now, if you would like to go and buy the iPhone 12, it costs us about now $700, right? So we go to the Apple stores, we pay $700, we get the iPhones, right? Because we believe the product we bought from the Apple Store is worth $700. Right? Otherwise, you won't go there, pay $700 and get these products. If you think iPhone only worth $200, you're not going to go there to buy that, right? So basically, exchange theory is talking about the sponsor and the sports organization. A lot of time we call them sponsee. When they exchange something, they believe things we exchange are completely identical in value, right? So this is about exchanging theories. Sports sponsorship is one of the big revenues. Some of you might know in the sports industry we have 4 main revenues, right? Ticket sales, sponsorships, also media naming rights, and also merchandise products, right? Sponsorship is a really important one. If we look at the history of the sports sponsorship, it can trace back to 1852 when the first intercollegiate athletic competition took place. Some students might remember, first intercollegiate athletic competitions was a rowing competition between Harvard University and Yale Universities. So that event was sponsored by a Boston-based railway company. So the rowing competition was not took place at the where Harvard and Yale University located. So that took place in a separate state. So because they were an event that's sponsored by a railroad company. The railroad company want all these athletes and also all these spectators to use that service, so they decided to sponsor this host this event in the separate areas. So that was one of the earliest examples that we can think about that involved with the sports sponsorships. Another example was back to 1876. So H. Spalding and his brothers, they developed the first MLB ball to become the official baseball of the National League and American Leagues. So if you're familiar with the history of the baseball, you possibly know before MLB was created, there were 2 professionally existing at that time. One was National League, one was American League. Today we still have 2 different leagues, right? So Spalding we consider was the first businessman that really perceived the advantages of establishing an official relationship with sports team and league. So he opened a store in Chicago in 1870s. And when the National League was founded in 1876, so they came and asked him to publish baseball rule books. So at that time, there were different rules in baseball utilized in the United States. So he agreed to say, okay, I can publish this book, but I want to change this book's name to Spalding's Official Baseball Guide. And he sold this baseball guide to a lot of different customers and making a lot of monies. So he was actually the first one, get the idea of, we come up with the idea called official things. And then later on, he decided to, he talked to the National League, say, hey, we want to continue to sponsor this event. We would like to become the official baseball of the league. And the National League agreed with that. So they really helped the product to be sold in the more places. So that's another successful example. We know nowadays sports sponsorships getting very big. If we look at what motivate the growth of the sports sponsorship, so there are a lot of different reasons that we can discuss. The first reason I would say that's a shift in marketing spend by tobacco and alcohol manufacturers. Tobacco company and alcohol drink manufacturers in the past, they were deeply involved in the sports, particularly tobacco company. Nowadays, you guys possibly have never seen the sports event that being sponsored by a tobacco company. But when I was a child, I remember Marlboro. I don't smoke. I don't know a lot of brand of those cigarettes, but Marlboro sponsor a lot of different events. When I was a child, I remember that particularly they sponsor Formula One. So most of sporting events in 70s, 80s, 90s, they generate a lot of revenues that being contributed by a tobacco company, right? Give you examples in 2005. So Formula One, they receive revenues like $350 million per year from tobacco sponsors. So that was like an example. But we know the tobacco is not healthy, that endangers people's health. So more and more regulation was introduced. So in 2006, Formula One also decided to ban tobacco advertising in the United States. They possibly started earlier. So starting from 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, and more regulation was introduced at that times. In basically entering the 21st century, with the more regulation was introduced, tobacco company decided to like do some other thing to help them sell the products. But how tobacco companies supposed to sponsor sporting events that really catch people's attention, really help them to develop a lot of global brand at that time. People also realize, sports is actually a great platform where they be able to use this platform to capitalize on the popularity of this platform to make some money, make some profit. So that's the first reason. Second reason is because there's decreased effectiveness of advertising in traditional media, particularly print media and television. Right? We know people are not reading newspaper anymore nowadays. With the introduction of the internet, people spend more time doing watching things from internet, reading things from internet, rather than spending time consuming the television. So they made advertising become less effective in traditional media. So they really help the growth of sports sponsorships. And sometimes sports sponsorship could be with lower costs and also can increase exposures when it compares to traditional advertising. So one of the biggest things made sports sponsorship being recognized globally, we say, was 1984 Olympic Games that took place in Los Angeles. Olympic Games in 1970s were really struggle at that time. So 1976 Olympic Games took place at Montreal, a Canadian city. So the event itself was successful, but the whole city lost a lot of monies for hosting the Olympic Games. So at the end of 1970s and 1980s and the beginning of 1980s, no one really wanted to host the Olympic Games because they realized we spent a lot of money hosting this event, getting people here, but we're not actually making money. So in 1984 Olympic Games, Los Angeles was the only city that bid for the Olympic Games and won the bid. They really changed the Olympic Games history because Los Angeles Olympic Games has been considered as the first ever modern Olympic Games that really made revenue and made profit. So what they did was they really capitalized on the popularity of the Olympic Games. They sold sponsorship. They sold sponsorship to more than 30 companies at that time. So they really made a lot of money. And IOC also realized, okay, Olympic Games itself is popular. They could really help the Olympic movement generate a lot of revenue. So they started to create the international Olympic sponsorship programs, right? So the success of the 1984 Olympic Games also gave a lot of idea to other business. They started to realize the power of the sports and they started to spend more money on sports. So that really helped the growth in sports sponsorships. Other reasons including like globalization of sports. If you want to really promote yourself in the world, there's no any other product than sport that can help you achieve this goal. The companies like Coca-Cola, McDonald's, those are global brands, right? So they provide service in more than 100 countries in the world. And what was the best way for you to really let all the people know about it? To sponsor the major international events like the Olympic, like the FIFA World Cups, right? And also technological technological developments that also help the growth of the sports sponsorship, help people come up with more ideas. So those are the reasons why sports sponsorship became so popular today. Where speaking of sports sponsorship, we always would like to make it compare with the traditional advertising. So what are the similarities, differences between the sports sponsorship and traditional advertising? For traditional advertising, right? So they have what made them unique is, first of all, they heavily rely on media, right? Either traditional media, now the new media. So they heavily rely on the media. So traditional advertising were using persuasive messages, try to encourage you to buy their products, right? Pursue you to buy their products. And also they are standardization. What does that mean? It's like every commercial you watch, they are the same, right? You watch State Farm's commercial today, tomorrow when you watch again on TV, watch the commercials on the internet, they're the same. So they're standardized. So they're not going to change their commercial every single day. Just try to let people remember them, right? Because for a commercial, you need to keep repeating the same message that can really plant this message into people's mind and brain, right? And also for traditional advertising, you'll be able to measure the effectiveness. You know how many customers watch this commercial, right? That's why a lot of companies would like to sponsor Super Bowl. Those very expensive for 30 seconds, right? $5 million for 30 seconds. But they know how many people will be watching Super Bowl, so they would like to put their money there, right? So that is the traditional advertising. For the sponsorships, so what makes sponsorship unique is they're not completely rely on media. They rely on media as well, but not completely. They could have organized other events to make them popular. So they give people the feeling there's some credibilities and prestigious because you become the official sponsors of like Cincinnati Reds. They become official sponsor of the MFL, official sponsor of the Olympic Games, right? When you try to communicate this message with the general public, people trust you, believe in you because you're official sponsors, right? You're the only is the official product associated with these prestigious events, right? They also provide them sales opportunities. You can sell your product at the events, right? And also another good thing is you'll be able to access the live audience. So those things I will not be able to do if you're using traditional advertising strategies. So this is what makes sponsorship unique when we compare it to traditional advertisings. Speaking of the sponsorships, so there are two types of the right fee. We know to be a sponsor, we have to pay money to these first properties. Right? There are two types. One is called cash, straightforward. How much money do you want for these sponsorships? I pay you monies, right? Second thing is VIK, called value in kind. So basically, it's talking about we give you groups and service for the exchange to become the official sponsors of your events, right? So those VIK including the product support. So for instance, we say we organize the events here. Small events on campus, we would like the local pizza restaurant to sponsor us, right? Pizza restaurants say, I don't have money, but I can give you like 30 pizzas, right? So this is a product support. Or personal support. Example is like accounting company. If you want to collaborate with them, they want to become official sponsors. So they can do is we can help you with the accounting. We do all this, accounting work for you. This is the people support, and also the support include the price, including the website exposure. So they say, oh, okay, we give you some of the money, some in cash. Some of them is we can also mention your event in our website, help you get more traffic, help you sell more tickets, right? So this is also a VIK, and also some other communication resources. So if I'm the media company, right, I want to become an official sponsor of something else, right? So I pay money, at the same time I can let you know I have the media platform that can help you to send out a message to the broader audience. Possibly that's what you need, right? So this is also something you would like to have. So this is value in kind. So two types of the right fees. The next topic we're going to talk about is the sports properties. So what kind of property do we have in the sports industry that we can provide an opportunity for people to sponsor on? So, so there are a lot of different properties. We have leagues, we have teams, we have events, we have venues, we have individual athletes. So those are all properties that we can provide to the marketers and allow them to capitalize on these popularities. The first one we're going to talk about sports league, right? A lot of partners would like to sponsor sports league. So when you try to sponsor sports league, so one of the good advantage for you is particularly when you try to target the national market, not just local market, but national market. So if you sponsor this professional sports league or sponsors NCAA, sponsor this national organization, that can really help you to target audiences around the countries, right? So that is kind of one of the beneficial. We know in Europe, they have the professional league, is a European soccer league, right? So that is a continental sports league. If you become a sponsor there, they can really help you to target not just one market, not just UK market, but also the rest of the European markets, right? So this is the leagues. So all the professional sports league in the United States, they are receiving tons of money from the sponsors. NBA, give example, $1.12 billion is coming from sponsorship revenue in 2017 and 2018. MFL is $1.39 billion, right? MLB is $892 million. NHL is $560 million from the sponsorship revenues. So those are an example. For the league, they can a lot of time they can determine how narrow the category could be. So, for instance, if there are two different companies, they're making a very similar product, they want to become a sponsor, they can, for instance, if Samsung or Apple, they all want to be a sponsor. For the league, you can may say, Samsung, you are official like smartphone sponsors. Apple, you can become like a official like laptop sponsors, right? So they're producing similar products. So for the league, you have the power to give both of them opportunity, but you have to play that around. But for the company like Samsung and Apple, obviously they don't want to share this exclusive sponsorship opportunity with their rivals. So that gives you professional sports league the chance to increase the values of your sponsorships. Okay, those about sports properties. Look at NBA, for instance, right? There are a lot of sponsors. So look at what kind of business would like to become sports sponsors, right? Broader category. So we have fast food, we have soft drink, we have an insurance company, banks, financial service, telecommunication, automobile, ticket exchanges, hotel, oil, media, right? You can give even more specific sponsorships categories to help you to generate more revenues from different types of the business, right? So this is about sponsorships, professional sports league, how they attract sponsorships. And the another property is a team, right? Professional sports team, colleges, college teams, either major league or minor league teams here in the United States, or even high school athletic, they also try to get some sponsors. So for sponsoring the team, what kind of business they would like to sponsor a particular team? So they normally would like to target a particular geography areas. So they have a geography scope, they tend to be local, right? And also try to be lower cost compared to lead partner. So they say, well, it's not worth it for me to sponsor MFL, and then we just target one particular market. And they can also get involved with the property that dominated by rivalry. So for instance, when the one companies become the lead sponsors, so I'll give you an example. So when Visa now is the official sponsor of the MFL, so for other credit card company like Mazda, American Express, and Discover, obviously you cannot become the official sponsors of the MFL because they only have one official credit card for the MFLs, right? So for the Visa, it does have the privileges. They can use MFL's logo to promote themselves, right? But if you are working for Discover, but you also want to take advantage of this, if you also want to develop your a relationship with the MFL, the only way that you can do is either you're gonna sponsor a team or sponsor a particular athletes, or maybe sponsor particular venues, right? So that's the only way they can really help you to get involved in the business. So, but the cost will be much less compared to sponsoring the MFL as a whole. So this is a second property. Other property including events, right? Event, we have a single day events, we have multiple day events, we have off-field events. So they give us the opportunity to associate with a sports property. So for a lot of events, a lot of company, if they have a lot of money, they would like to become the title sponsors. So become the title sponsors, they can really help them. But for the event sponsors, the problem is people's attention is a short term because events will be over. You will not be able to use that sponsorship for a very long period of time. So when the event's over, possibly the impact of sponsorships will be declined. So this is about event sponsorship. The next one is a venue sponsorship, which is called naming rights sponsorships. So it's an association in which corporate sponsors acquires the right to have a corporate or brand names that incorporate with the event's officials' names. A lot of times, if venue sponsorship lasts longer, they will have a partnership for more than 10 years are very, very common. The reason is because venue sponsorships, the impact of the venue sponsorships is not as effective as like lead sponsorship or team sponsorships. If you just sponsor a venue for a year, next year people call this venue a different name, it will be harder for people to recognize your brand, right? So that's why normally they will have a very long contract. It's a very longer commitment. A lot of times 10 years at least, a lot of times 20 years is a long time commitments. Some stadiums, they may experience a lot of different naming rights sponsorship, like Miami Dolphin. So from 1987 to 2016, it has 9 different names during these 20-30 years. So they create a lot of confusions to the customers, right? So this is about venue sponsorship. Next class, we're going to spend a little bit more time to talk about the venue sponsorship. The last one is individual sponsorship, which is called personal endorsement with athletes, right? So we're going to endorse a particular athletes instead of like endorsing her events. Sometimes it's a lot cheaper, maybe more effective, right? So this is athlete endorsement. So next lecture, we spend a little bit more time to talk about naming right and athlete endorsements. Okay, we'll talk about those sports property that we can provide to the business to help them promote their product. The next question is, what do you have to consider as a good sponsorship? So from your perspective, what would be a good sponsorship? So you think about what would be good sponsorships. There are multiple different ways that we can consider this a good sponsorship. The first thing we think is very important is we need to have a good fit between the sponsor and sponsee, right? So, for instance, if that is a swimming suit, like Speedo swimming suit, if they sponsor a swimmer, good fit, perfect fit, right? Makes sense. But if a swimming suit Speedo sponsor like winter sport athletes, it's just weird, right? It's weird. Maybe they try to export it to new other markets, but it just doesn't seem like a good fit, right? So that's something you would like to think about. The second thing is they can really help us to achieve our goal, right? So that's the second thing we would like to know. For instance, we hope we can increase the sales after sponsoring these events or teams. We would like to know whether we can really increase the sales or enhance the brand recognitions, right? If they did not help us achieve this, they might not be a good sponsorships. And the next one is budget. Budget is talking about whether we have enough money to pay to a sponsor, right? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, right? So if we have enough money, and also we have enough money to activate the sponsorship, can really maximize the value of sponsorship, that would be even better, right? Last one is about the reputation of the sponsee, right? They can really have a good reputations of these events, can really help you to develop a better brand. They can help you target customer and also help the customer to connect your brand with this sports property. So that's 4 things they can help us judge whether that's a good sponsorships or not, right? So okay, so this is the first part of the sports sponsorship lectures. Let's take a short break. You can watch the next video, and we're going to talk about how we're going to create a sports sponsorship and how we're able to activate a sponsorship. I will talk to you guys later.